Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the latest in the Skore user drop-in sessions. In today's session, we're going to have Colin is going to take us through sharing processes with other people. We're going to look at various different ways of doing that, different options available to you. So on that note, Colin, take it away.
Thanks, Craig. So mapping a process on your own is a very interesting intellectual exercise in some cases, but the value for us and why we created Skore is when we are mapping processes with others, right? When you have a conversation, when you start discussing the wording and how things connect together and what are your constraints and what are your opportunities for improvements, opportunities for change. So how do we share process in Skore? So let's say we have mapped a process. Let's take the P2P example. So we've mapped this beautiful process. Someone was mapping it probably on the screen sharing session. And then we need to share that with others. So if your colleagues have access to Skore, the simplest way is you copy the URL, the address bar here. The link to the process is unique and it's not going to change over time. So we can just copy the address in the browser, paste it in an email. People will click on it. If they are not logged in Skore, they will be asked to log in, and then they will have access to the contents with all the interactive features like looking at attachments and being able to drill down and up. So this is the most simple, considering you're really collaborating with people in your team. There are cases where having a printed copy, like a PDF that can be printed in all sorts of formats, may be very convenient. So we have the print menu in the tab, and there's a lot of different ways of printing. I'm going to fly over the couple of most significant options, and we are releasing some new tutorials video on the YouTube channel very soon that deep dive into some of the features. So the one that I'm using the most is so in the print settings, the option that I'm using the most is as per page view. So by default, Skore will squeeze all the content on a given diagram on a page, right? So you can print one diagram per page, but sometimes you actually want to print it as it looks when you were mapping the process. So there's this as per page view option here. In this very case, it makes a little difference. I have this white box here that overlaps in between two pages. So this is the one I'm using regularly. And the other one is current diagram and children for printing scope. So by default, it just previews just the page where you started, where you were. Clicking this option, this is a big process, so it takes a couple of minutes to generate the other pages. But then here I see one after the other, I see all my diagrams, one page each. Okay, some of them are empty, but we see the idea. I see all my diagrams, and what I can do here at this stage is print. It creates a printer-friendly page because of the constraints of the internet. We need to go this way, and then the best is to use the browser default printing menu, so file print typically, or Control P on your computer. And then most browsers have a way to save as a PDF direct or send it to your traditional printer. Again, another constraint because of browsers. If you prepared for A4 landscape, when you print, you may need to reset again in the Windows or the Mac OS printing thing. We need to set it up again because we can't control the screen, and it will apply your default and not the one we instruct the format of the page. So printing is quite powerful when you want to, especially when you're in an office. You can also do poster printing. So this is quite fun, is when you can actually expand a process to be spread on a lot of pages. So here it will print like 10 A4 pages that I can stick together on a wall. And back in the days or in the future, when we'll go back to the office, it's quite good to have big processes on the wall. Everyone can sit around and discuss. This can be good fun. So all digital version with Skore, but printing is, I know it's still quite popular and it's still quite convenient. Also, when you're sending a PDF to people who don't have access to Skore, they can add little post-its on top there, the commenting features of the PDFs. So that's about sharing processes. What we can do also on some of the plans with Skore is share a process publicly. So we need to be a bit wary about this one, because this will create a public link of this process. So if I'm clicking here, share publicly, it's not enabled for everyone, it's only in given plans. I can enable sharing. So that means now the URL to this process can be accessed by anyone without initial login. So this has the merit of being very convenient, but this also has the downside of being quite uncontrolled. So if the link goes outside of the organization or to some people you don't want to, they will be able to see all your process. So use that carefully. Then you can copy the link, send it to anyone, literally anyone, and they can click and open Skore. So the convenience here is at the expense of the security. So this is why there's quite a couple of messages explaining you what happens. The link here that I'm copying is actually the same as in the URL bar. So if you're just looking for the link to your process, you don't need to go here and share publicly and stuff like that. You can just literally copy the link in your address bar at the top. I'm gonna unshare this process. Okay. So this is the idea. So sharing a process with people with accounts, printing typically to PDF to send over people to get their content. I usually, at the end of a workshop, I will send both the PDF and the link to the process. It's a bit less relevant now, people are traveling less, but usually when we were doing workshops, everyone would travel to a workshop, and on the way back, they have the PDF they can read in the train or in the plane. This was, so a lot of people found it convenient, and they can use half an hour at the end of the workshop when they're on their way back to add a couple of comments and notes and review it. So we're talking about more when I'm in a workshop and I want to share content to participants. Now, my process is great, it's designed, and I want to sort of share it with my organization. And I have more and more people in my company having access to my workspace. So we've introduced the folders recently. So when people in your company starts having access to Skore, the question is, how do we keep a workspace, well, how do we make it easy to find content for users? So here we have quite a long list of processes, and we also have folders, so it can be convenient to put a specific process into a folder. From the experience of using the folders with a couple of customers recently, is don't make your folders too granular. We had a team that actually created a lot of folders for pretty much everything, and then they went back to simplifying the first folder and having like 5 or 6 main high-level folder, because it became quite complex. And then they were like, oh, this process could go in this folder and this folder at the same time. So like, now let's create a high-level process folder that encapsulates both use cases, and that really unlocked the whole situation. So folders are here on the left. One process, as I said, is in one single folder. The filtering, also, if you don't really know in which folder is a process, you can always just try to search for it using the search bar at the top, which is everywhere. By default, the search here searches in the current folder only, but there's a little checkbox to actually instruct the search to search everywhere. So I don't know. I know this process exists. I don't know where it is. I don't know in which folder. We can just use the search to get there. So this is how to find process on your workspace. Another little feature we have here, we see this is quite subtle on this workspace, but here we see a little line. So we have these 5 processes at the top are pinned. So this is an option we called pin or unpin on top of the workspace. So the the process sticks to the top of the list, whatever the order of the rest of the list after the little thin bar, these processes are still on top. So we know they are easy to find. And this also works, I'm gonna demo that here. This also works in the folders. I can pin a process in a folder. So I know that when I click on a folder, this process is at the top, and this will hopefully be what the users will catch their attention and probably open there. So what we've done with another customer is they had folders more or less per functions. And then on each function, they had a pinned process with like the entry point, the landing page for each function. So that make it very, very easy to navigate in the workspace instead of having everything as a list at the top. The last thing I will talk about when it comes to sharing process with your organization is the publication flow, again, available in some plans. So here I see that this process, how do I landing page, is published. That means it has a published, let's say in quote, official version. So if I'm going to open it, it will open the published version. So that's one of the main thing of a published process is when I open it by default, it shows me the published version. That doesn't mean there's no more work that has been done there. So if I look on the history, so I'm clicking on the menu, top menu at the top, history tab, it will load. So here I see I have all the details of this version. So version 10 has been published by Chris at this date. It was a self-approval. He was both the requester and the approver. And this is the version that opens by when I click on it. I could open, I see there's a latest version done by Craig. And here I also see, when I close this menu, I could also see here in my control tool at the top that I have see latest edits. So it opens the published version by default. This is the snapshot that we want users to see when they open the process. But we can also have a look at what are the changes that have been done in the future on this process. So we can continue working on a process without distracting and without changing the version that users are opening by default when they land on a process. When we are linking processes together, so when we are creating navigation from one process to the other, it will always go to the published version if it exists. Otherwise, it will go to the latest. So the published is quite powerful when we start having more people involved in the process, more users viewing the processes, and it helps creating a snapshot that we know will not change with every single little modification I'm doing. And as a process analyst, as a process mapper, I can still continue making small changes and small tweaks. But once they're all done, I can republish the version. If you're doing a self-approval, so you're requesting and just publishing and approving yourself, it's like 3 clicks to create a new version. So it's very, very easy, and we made it super straightforward so that it's easy to create new versions, approved versions of the process. Any questions? Any place where we should focus on, or should I replay some parts where I went a bit fast, or any use cases that you want to share?
One thing I was going to bring up, Colin, is could you maybe just go through access rights a little bit? Because I've heard we've had a couple of cases come in where people have shared a link and then someone couldn't access it, and it was because they'd had access rights set.
Absolutely. Yeah, exactly. So processes may have access rights. So when you create a process by default, it will be open to everyone. So everyone with a user account in the workspace will be able to see it, and all editors will be able to edit it, to modify it. Now we can change that. So if I'm opening the workspace, the process menu again, manage access rights. So here we see actually it's restricted already. The default would be everyone in the workspace can view, and all editors of the workspace can edit. What we've done here is so still everyone in the workspace can view it, but what has been done here is restricting who can edit the process. So in this occurrence, there's only Craig and myself who can actually make changes to this process, but still everyone can view it. Okay, so here it's very easy to add or remove new users. I can add Chris, and now Chris can edit it. But sometimes you will quickly, all the teams that have started using access rights, they switch to using user groups very quickly. So instead of just adding 3 editors on each process, what I'll do is I will first set up a user group. So let's reset to how it was. I can create a user group. Here in the admin panel, I have user groups. So I can have a group per location or per department, or really for a given project or a given topic. So user groups are really easy to create. I can manage the users here. So we have Colin, Chris, Sam, let's put Craig in this user group. So now we have Craig in the Postmus Office user group. So let me show you how we assign that to a process. Manage access rights. Then here I have one search bar for users individually and one search bar for a user group. So I can just assign the group to the thing. And then to the process, then the benefit is I only need to manage the users in my user groups and not individual usernames for each process. So what I can do here is then remove these names, stick with a user group. It will make it much more sustainable way to not only to manage, but also to audit. So we'll just reset this access right to everyone. And then I can add and remove people in the user groups. We have a management dashboard behind that. If you need to do mass assignment of groups and user groups and process, we can give you access. This is a sort of a private tool that makes our life sometimes easier when there's dozens of processes to change at once.
Any other questions?
Any other questions?
It's not really an access point, but it's kind of related, and it was something that I came across. Everybody else probably knows this already, but you can restrict or you can enable people to put comments on as well, which is we found very useful. And occasionally we came across one where for some reason we turned the comments off, and that threw me. So I don't know whether it's worth just mentioning that. It's not really access, it's kind of related, isn't it?
Yeah, thank you, Sue. You're right. So collecting comments, we have big plans to improve the whole commenting and engagement aspect in the Skore process. So we have the comment module here, and okay, it happens that it's enabled in this process, but by default it's not enabled. So by default, the commenting on the process is not turned on. So it needs indeed to be manually turned on. Actually, it would be interesting to see if people would rather have that manually turned on by default instead of turned off. Yeah, so the what I see when it's turned on is I have actually the text area here to add a comment. So I need to update the logo on this process. So dummy comments. It's here. The comments can be pinned. So what we call by a pin is we can drag and drop on the process a little note to say for which location this process is relevant. Because a process is very visual, a comment is just a text, so it allows me to list the two together. Text will appear here. Comment may also be marked as completed, so it will go in the completed list as soon as I check it. It will move here in the completed. So I have my list of open comments and completed comments. And I will just clean up my demo. I will remove the pin from the process. So we have big plans in the future to make this whole collaboration part in Skore much more full featured, let's say, and also a bit more interactive with notifications and reporting.
So with that, or through that mechanism, would you put in comments on a process? For example, if you've worked on it and then shared it with a group of people you've been working with, could they come back and make comments in this similar way?
Yeah, absolutely. That was the idea of having the ability to turn on and off comments. It was we create a commenting session.
Mm-hmm.
So saying people, all right, the comments are enabled on this process. Go ahead and tell us where it makes sense, doesn't make sense. We list things where there's an opportunity for improvements, where there's constraints that we've forgotten, or someone from HR couldn't make the meeting, but they need to add their comments about their legal constraints or something.
Yeah.
So that was the original intent with the commenting, is being able to.
No, that makes sense. It's really good. I like the idea that you could switch it off at a certain time. So the old version of, like, if you don't respond by 11 o'clock on Tuesday morning, then your comments won't be admitted, as it were.
Yeah, that's the idea.
I've also seen somebody use it as a way to collect evidence that people have viewed a process.
Yeah.
So what they've done is they've sent a link out and then said, can you come in and then leave a comment to say, yes, I've seen it, because you see how it timestamps with the name of the person. So then if, I don't know, if you've got some sort of compliance thing, for example, you can come back in the future and say, okay, yeah, everybody commented to say that they had seen the process. So you might switch it on and off just for that session.
Yeah, good idea.
Yeah, quite powerful in that sense.
Yeah, our idea with the comments is to be able to mention people. So, like you have in a lot of tools now, you can start with a little @ and write a name, and it will mention the people. And we'll also like to be able to categorize comments, because we realize they fall into very distinct categories. Some of them are to-dos, and some of them are more explanation of why something has been done away. So this is what from my experience, if I could sometimes just have a little comment, say, all right, this is why we mapped the process this way. This is not an error. This is explaining why we put this person as a responsible, not someone else. I think that would be a sort of a track decision log.
I have a question, Colin. Can you do any kind of reporting on the comments?
Not yet. That's really part of the new thing.
So in that example you've got there, if there were comments on processes that are sub levels of this top level process, would you have to drill down to them to see where the comments are?
No, you see them per process. So this process doesn't have any drill down, but here you would see simulating. You would see all the comments, and it would show you as a little submenu if it's visible on this diagram or if it's on a lower level diagram.
Okay, yeah.
There is a comment report though, isn't there?
There's a comment report, but per process.
Yeah.
And what we want to do with, all the work with, there's a lot of work we're doing in Skore to bring everything at the workspace level.
Yeah.
So to bring commenting, have a commenting menu at the top where I can see all the comments for all processes, whether they are open or not, who posted them, and where they are.
But within a given process.
And it will tell you which process this comment is relevant for.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good. That's something we need to explore.
I've got another quick question that popped into my head actually when you were going through quite near the beginning. Just in terms of sharing the links, I'm sure everyone knows that when you share a link, if you're at the top level of the process, it will share the link to the whole process. But as you sort of drill down into the sub levels, it creates a sort of unique link for each one. The question I was going to ask, Colin, is there anything else that you can share that has a unique link? I think, for example, I think you could send a role description to someone, can't you?
Yeah, good point. So when I navigate into my process, so here I'm in the drill down, and I see the box ID has been added to the end of the URL. Just to show you, I will navigate somewhere else. So it was 875, now it's 878. So these I can do a link, indeed, as you say, Craig, to a very specific part. Oh, navigate back to a very specific part of a process. So this box, top left, is a box 875. I see it in the bottom left corner in my in the footer. When I click on it, I'm in 875 details. So this is where so I can really literally send a link to a diagram specifically. It works also for the roles manager. So default role that will be selected is the number 1. So which one is it? It's here at the bottom, actually, role. If I'm clicking on AP system, here I see the role manager 5. So if I'm sending this link to someone, they will land exactly on this page. And in Skore, pretty much everywhere, we've taken care of having very clean and dedicated URL. So pretty much any page in Skore, when you copy the URL in the address bar and you send it to someone, they will land exactly on what you want them to. This works also for analytics. This works for Quantify. So yeah, it's a bit one of my my obsession is making sure the URLs are clean. I hate when I see URLs with sequences of numbers. And
yeah, that's very good, Colin. It's important, really.
Thanks.
Human readable.
Human readable URL. Yeah. My developers hate me for that.
Yeah, no, not so much that. But if you don't have a very clear system, then it goes all over the place, and you end up with effectively duplications and such like, don't you?
Yeah, exactly. So
it's an important part of it.
I'm not sure if it's relevant to anyone on the session today, but we did have one of our consulting customers yesterday actually asked a question about where they're working in multiple different workspaces because they're working from lots of different companies. And they asked the question about when I'm in a process, is there an easy way to see what workspace that I'm in, or i.e. which company I'm working for? And of course, the URL gives you that information as well because it's nice and clean.
Yeah, so the solution we propose to them is the URL, but also there's the ability to customize the look and feel of a workspace in some plans. So here I'm on the Skore default green, teal, but we have different colors styling available. So also if they match the colors, style it, match the color of their customer. It would be easier for them working with several clients to
put the customer logo in the corner of the process diagrams and all of those sorts of things. So you can really style everything for for the company branding. So it really helps on remember where you are.
Yep.
Can I ask a question about roles? If I have read access only, so I'm not an editor, can I see the roles tab?
So to see the role tab, you need to be an editor. You don't need to have access to the access rights. So the role, if you're an editor, so if you're an editor, you will see the role tab, whatever is your access rights on the process.
Okay,
providing you can see. So this is the role tab is a feature for editors, whoever they are.
Okay, so I could only really share.
Yeah, the viewers will not have access to the role tab.
Okay, so there'll be no point in my sharing, for example, with my viewers, particular role links because they wouldn't be able to access it, presumably.
No, they need to be able to.
No. Okay, that's why I just wanted to check. Thank you.
And are there any other areas that are only accessible by editors? I presume Quantify would be.
Yeah, Quantify. So all the analytics. So if I'm opening a process as a viewer, essentially I have process and print tab.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So all analytics tools are for editors.
Is there a report I could run which would show me that I could share with the user where their role is features throughout a process?
Yeah, absolutely. So the default report that appears is by box. So it shows one line of reporting per box. The next one here down is roles. So here it's one line per role assignment. So maybe not the best process to demo this with. Let me go back to P2P. But this is probably the one you want to extract because it really gives a very comprehensive picture of every role.
Yeah.
So roles. Report roles. So here I have one line per assignment. So I can then group by role name. So here I just clicked on the header and it sorted automatically. So I can see all the AP manager activities, all the AP system where the system is used, the buyer, the finance admin, and things like that. So you can.
Yeah, and you could filter by an individual role, couldn't you?
Yeah, you can filter using the search here. There's also a search at the bottom. Someone complained yesterday it was a bit hidden, and I couldn't agree more.
That's me.
Oh, yeah. So yeah, sorry, I haven't answered yet to your message, but I was like, yeah, I feel your pain.
I wrote it and then I thought that's really lazy, saying that it's inconvenient to have to scroll to the top of the screen again.
Yeah, so I need to see if this plugin module we are using can put it at the top.
Well, we talked about it in our weekly product call this morning as well, didn't we?
Yeah, we have cool tables. I mean, I've done some work on making a better table. Also, one thing is that I realize some people don't realize that you can scroll to the right. So that's also something I'm looking at.
And can I export that? This is probably going off into a topic for another one, isn't it? That would be a really useful topic to have, actually, reporting, just what's in the standard reports.
Brilliant.
We haven't already covered it.
Yeah, here in the export top right corner, copy the clipboard. You can copy and then paste it into an existing Excel file, or here if you click Save to Excel.
I'll line that up for the first session in June, Sue.
Thank you. Yeah, I think
I'll add
that would
it
be
to
really
the
useful.
schedule.
Yeah, that'd be good. Thank you.
All right, can I leave you guys with Craig?
Yes.
Because I have...
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you, Colin.
Thanks, Colin.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.